Hello everybody out there, and welcome to another episode of the Talk That Talk Show with me, Barry Holmes. Here we are at episode 61 here, and I'm just, like I said, happy to be here yet again for another week, another installment. Shout out to everybody that's out there on our Facebook live stream, also on our Instagram live stream. Shout out to my boy Jeff Farrell. Shout out to Liz. She actually hooked us up with the dope Talk That Talk Show mug here. We're going to be trying out a new beer in there soon up. I had my boy Alex Balonis on our Facebook live stream. My boy Nahir, my brother who's not here in the moment, he's out enjoying himself. But thank you so much to everybody that's tuned in here on both streaming platforms. You can always check us at Instagram Live, Facebook Live, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. Shout out to my boy Shug, who actually copped a couple of t-shirts. We're going to be raffling off an OG2 at the end of the show tonight. So anybody that wants to get themselves a shirt as custom, we've been able to do a little bit of raffle for everybody that's on our stream. So put your name in there, say that you would like a shirt, and we're going to give you a shirt, hopefully, if you win the raffle. My dad's been having a lot of fun with spinning the wheel here. And I've actually got a lot of fun and enjoyed seeing the different people that are going to win the raffle at the end of the show. It's become kind of a really fun tradition that's grown with this show. And I think it definitely speaks to the growth of this show in itself. When I look back and I actually got a chance to reflect and look at some of the older episodes, and one of the things that I said that I wanted to do, and talking with some of my friends, is we were saying that we always try to get the show better. And my mom actually poked at me because she said that I finally listened to her, was one of her suggestions. But through selling these T-shirts, shout out to everyone that's gotten the OG2, OG1, the OG3s that should be coming out soon to the general public. But, we don't just, take the money from there and just sit on it. I've really been taking everything and all the proceeds and everybody that's supported with this show and just trying to invest into the show itself, trying to get more equipment. I mean, like I said, we weren't even able to have Instagram Live as an option, and it's there now. And, if you look in the back of us, we used to have the Knicks and Chiefs, but now we actually have a Talk That Talk Show backdrop. I mean, just to see the amount of people that are rocking the T-shirts and they're asking for T-shirts, and, to see that our own set, we got our own mug that we're going to be reviewing the beer on. It's just steps, and everything takes time. And I think a lot of times, with people, and especially sometimes with myself, we're so hard on ourselves, and we're so, desperate to try and get to that next step, that, we got to understand that Rome wasn't built in a day, and everything takes time. So looking back at those old episodes, and, now to say that we have our own backdrop, everybody's out here trying to get everything as far as the shirts and, getting these downloads. I mean, we've built this following in Austria. I mean, come on, man. It's just something that humbles me each and every day, and makes me come out here each week to try and deliver you all a quality show. So I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my sponsors out there. Shout out to Executive Bar and Restaurant located in Carteret, New Jersey. Also want to give a big shout out to my boy 91s.com. Cody Bromley's got the best acid wash apparel in the game. I actually was talking to him not too long ago. We're going to see if maybe we can collab on some OG1s and try and get some acid wash shirts out there for some people that are looking for those. And also want to give a big shout out to VW Liquors located in Wick Plaza, Edison, New Jersey. I want to give a shout out to, like I said, Caroline, my boy Dave, Gabe Azzarello, Neva, Tim. I came in there today, and I'm going to be reviewing one of the beers from Bolero again, and they all supported with getting the shirt, and they were, like I said before, last episode, they got my shirt in the front of the store, and it means the world to me. It really does. And I know it might sound redundant, but especially in these times of trying to grow and get better with each week, it's just important to appreciate the people that get you there. So I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for my sponsors, my family out there that's pushing me each and every week. And I'm just really hyped to get ready to get an episode for y'all. So here we go. Let's hop right into episode 61. So with baseball coming back, I know we've had the OG3s that are dropping, and everybody's hyped with that colorway. If you know my baseball team, you'll know what that is. But with baseball coming back, one of the things and one of the changes that we've seen that has gotten a little bit of a stir and has got the pot going is the fact that we've seen that there's going to be the universal DH in MLB. So, I think that we've had some mixed reviews from a lot of different people. And I have a lot of good friends that are into baseball. And, I've read a lot of different articles out there. And, shout out to everyone that's written everything out there. So, the information is out there for you. You just have to try and go out there and seek it for yourself and decipher your own opinion about it. And, from a baseball person like myself, who, grew up playing baseball. My dad was a huge baseball person. I think me being a huge Mets fan, we always distinguished ourselves from the Yankees because, the Mets played in the National League. And I was always I always thought the National League was a lot more exciting to watch. And I think it's a very different baseball game in itself because the main staple or the main distinguishing factor between, the DH with the American League is the not having that DH with the National League. And I think that totally changes the game when you're able to make these double switches and when you have, trying to put in different situations where you have to pinch hit for pitchers. And it really creates a managerial standpoint to where you have to make sure your manager is the best person to equip your team with the players that need to be in the right situations. And that comes with the DH position in the American League. It becomes a lot more easier because you do not have to worry about that pitcher that might be coming up in the middle of the 8th inning, right? I think that's one of the things that really brought the allure of the National League. So when you're talking now about in a situation where you're taking the DH away from the National League and making it, taking it away from the American League and making it universal for everyone, I think this completely changes the game of baseball, right? I think we've seen, a lot of rule changes with the NBA, and I know how we've implemented the instant replay rules, and that's actually been something that's been implemented, in baseball in recent history. But I think when we're talking about changing the actual DH position, I think this isn't really a thing about trying to distinguish the National League and the American League. That's something that we're going to perceive on the outside. That's somebody that, like myself, that does. I think how can you have an all-star game where you're distinguishing American League and National League when that deciding factor is the designated hitter? We might as well just make everything East, West, North, South, and just compete with it from there because, that's how they're doing it down in this new revamp of the MLB. So when you take away the DH, you kind of take away from that individuality, or you take away that distinguishing factor that makes the National League, right? I think that, now from a managerial standpoint, the person who I'm most worried about with this is Jacob deGrom. How are you going to tell your DH or your best hitter for the Mets and say, hey, you're not going to hit today because Jacob deGrom is our pitcher and we want him to hit in that DH slot? How ridiculous does that sound, right? But now you have Jacob deGrom who's worked and, distinguished himself. And, think about contracts. There's, players and pitchers that stayed in the American League and stayed in the National League because the deciding factor was, can you hit? So I think that's the part of the baseball, especially in the National League, which I've grown to watch with the Mets over these past couple of years, that I'm going to really miss with the game if they decide to go forward with having the DH in both leagues. I really feel for those hitting pitchers out there. One of the favorite Mets memories was just how well that Steven Matz had hit on his first day and doing really well. So I think that if we take the bat out of the pitcher's hands in the National League, I think we're really taking away from, that tradition, that old style that we have with baseball. But that's what was so crazy about this is because we're constantly in battle when it comes to baseball as far as switching between progressive things and sticking to those traditionals. On last episode, I talked about how Ian Desmond talked about how they don't want you to pimp home runs and how you don't want to really, lavish when you hit it. I mean, everybody talks about when Joey Bats did that major bat flip, but nobody talks about how, the Twins, I think, were so pissed about it. And it just created this whole big rift with them. But, the big thing as far as traditionalists with baseball is they are not willing and they don't want to have baseball progress. And the biggest factor, and I think that, is a big pushing as to why they wanted this DH, is the time factor. When you have MLB that's competing against the NBA, which takes less than maybe 2 hours, sometimes 2 hours tops, or you're competing with the NFL game, which has you engaged, but there's not that constant action, it's kind of like baseball as well, too, where everything is, hit by hit, pitch by pitch. It's a traditionally slower sport. So now when you're talking to younger generation fans who are getting everything instantaneous, whether it's talking about information, whether it's talking about gaming, even the sports themselves. I mean, lacrosse is a big sport because it's so fast-paced now. These slower-paced sports are not necessarily geared towards the younger generation. So when you're trying to talk about times with bringing baseball back, and not only just bringing it back, but bringing it back to all audiences, here you have a situation where they're trying to take the DH away so that they can have the game be sped up faster. And I mean, when you look at another rule that was changed, you have the fact that we had extra innings. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but now in this new revamped MLB, when we start extra innings, there's always going to be someone on second base to start that inning. So they're really enforcing or trying to encourage the runs to speed up the process of making sure that these games aren't going that long. So I think that it's definitely more of an issue of not trying to keep it traditional for National League and American League, but more of trying to speed the process up and speed the games up. So this is always going to be a constant struggle when you have baseball who's competing with sports that traditionally outsell them both on television and in attendance, right? So baseball is going to constantly have to try and keep up with that newer generation of fans, but they have a difficult task for themselves. And, I mean, is the DH really the answer? I don't know, but, I think that we're going to see that in the next couple weeks and see how it's really going to affect both from a viewing standpoint and from a managerial standpoint. But I know baseball is coming back. That'll be in a couple weeks from now. But one thing that we definitely have to talk about, I hope my boy John Zapata's here on this team, on the stream tonight, but we got to talk about UFC 251! The opening of Fight Island! Shout out to my boy Nico on the Instagram live stream. Ishabad Crane. Yo, Ish, I don't know. I got a couple wins with your brother Stefan. We went back to back. You have to come back and get your spot back, man. Shout out to my boy Marcus. Christopher Garrett. He said he wants a shirt. Shout out to my boy Angelo Paulo. My boy Timothy Hugel. I know he wants to hear us talk about hockey. I'm really happy that hockey's coming back too. I know they reached an agreement. They're going to try and get players back and have play start soon. I think they got something really smart there, Tim, with having everything be in Canada. I know it's a big Canadian sport, but with having the NHL have things be in Canada, I think it kind of takes away from the... it adds to the safeness, or a little bit more safer than the other leagues are. When you have the NBA, who's having their restart in Florida, I mean, that's become one of the more hotbeds. So when we're trying to create that bubble for these athletes, I think NHL kind of set that standard with having things be out there in Canada. So I know you're happy about that, Tim. And then also shout out to Jen. She says, love my shirt. Oh, and you love the banner too. Thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for your support. But I definitely want to talk here about UFC 251. Before we go on to the other fights, because this is definitely a super stacked card, I'm 100% going to be watching. You would be a fool not to be watching UFC 251. We got Fight Island, the opening of Fight Island. I mean, they're going to be having it in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it looks like a Mortal Kombat stage, man. It looks super tough. So alone from that, we have the fight, which is going to be Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. And, whoo! I mean, Masvidal literally took this fight on a 6 days notice because the other fighter that was supposed to fight Usman for the welterweight title got coronavirus. So he was not able to make the flight. So, yeah, Angelo Paulo says it is a legit location. Yes, it is. Super tough. But now, I mean, when you look at it and you're talking about Jorge Masvidal, who has, been crowned as the baddest motherfucker. He has the BMF belt. This is a real thing. And when he beat Nate Diaz, we knew that Nate Diaz is somebody that takes a lot of hits and everything. But, Jorge Masvidal, in the latter part of his career, has been someone that has, really evolved as a fighter. I mean, everybody talks about the Ben Askren when he did the flying knee. And, I mean, that was amazing. I know I saw the reaction from Israel Adesanya when he watched it live. But, when I look at Jorge Masvidal, I'm looking at a guy that really cut 20 pounds of weight in 6 days. Now, I know that a lot of people might say that, Jorge Masvidal, he's got the BMF title. He's a bad dude. I mean, he's somebody that, he can take it. He got a strong chin. He can throw with these guys. He has hands. But let me tell you about Usman. I mean, this guy, Kamaru Usman, is somebody that will legit knock the brakes off people, man. And I really believe that he is a much more developed fighter at this time. I mean, Jorge Masvidal is somebody that's going to get a little bit more interest because he's taking this. He has that large persona, right? He wears the flashy stuff. He has that confidence, that bravado. But don't let that make you mistaken for what is fact. And the fact of the matter is Kamaru Usman is the champion here and has, created this platform for himself based off the consistency he has shown as a fighter. The guy has only lost one time. So if you're telling me that I want to go against that guy for the potential in Masvidal just because he's got a big talk, I mean, I got to go with Usman here, man. I know that somebody, and a lot of people are saying that Masvidal has the power. He has knocked people out. He has shown that potential. But I'm telling you, this man Usman, like my boy Theo said on the Instagram live stream, he is a dog. My boy Marcus, who is a mixed martial artist himself, he says that Usman can wrestle. And when you have that wrestling capability, especially going against a guy like Masvidal that not hasn't necessarily shown that he can wrestle as greatly to the level that Usman has, I think that is what's going to maybe give Usman that edge here. And I'm going to say confidently that I'm going to take Usman. But just because that title fight, we have Derek Thomason who says that it's going to be a 3-round TKO. I think that I believe more in Jorge Masvidal to think that he's going to get TKO'd. But I do think that this is going to go to decision. I think it's going to be a hard-fought fight. I think it's going to go the distance. And I think that Usman is going to get that win. He can wrestle, like my boy Marcus said. And, when you're coming in as the champion and you have that bravado and you already don't like this guy like he doesn't like Masvidal, I think it sets the stage for a great fight. And I'm taking Usman. But I think that there's a couple other fights on this card that are going to be really good as well, too. I mean, you got Jessica Andrade versus Rose Namajunas, right? And this is going to be a rematch of the strawweight division for the women. And I don't know that a lot of people didn't see this fight, the first one, but I remember Jeffrey Farrell. He actually put me on. This was back before I was super into UFC, but he actually put me on. And when I watched that fight, Rose was winning most of that first fight. She was dogging this girl. But then it was at the end where she slipped up just a little bit. And that girl, Jessica, dumped her on her head. And it was over from there. All right? She slammed her on her head and it was lights out. All right? So, when you talk about this rematch, I think that it's very tricky because, you have Jessica Andrade who, won it by coming back in such a devastating fashion. But you don't know, how easy that can be to do it second time. I know people say sometimes, lightning doesn't strike twice. But when you have somebody like Rose who lost in such a fashion where she was winning most of that fight, I kind of want to go with Rose here. I'm going to go with the underdog, and I'm going with Rose because, I feel like, from a mental standpoint, she had won most of that fight, but it wasn't up until she slipped up and lost that concentration for a split second and got dumped on her head, and we saw what happened. So, I think for me, I'm going to go with Rose because I think she has something to prove. I believe in retribution. I believe that people can use that as a mental capacity and a deciding factor to vault them up. And I'm taking Rose there. But I also think that the big fight that a lot of people, that could have headlined any other UFC, is we have Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. And, for a featherweight title, I think that Max Holloway is something that everybody wants to win. I would love for this guy to win. I think that, Max Holloway is a likable guy. He's somebody that has heart that Derek Thomas is talking about. It's all about heart. But at the end of the day, sometimes heart isn't enough. And I think that it's not going to be enough, tomorrow night against Alexander Volkanovski because, when I see it against Volkov as a guy that has a very strong chin, I'm not confident in the fact that Max Holloway can knock this guy out. I know that Max Holloway has knocked out people before. I know he lost by decision to some tough names. But, I really, truly think that Volkanovski is going to give this guy a reality check. And it sucks because I think that Max Holloway is such a likable guy and I want to root for him. But it's tough to go against, Volkov, man. And, from the power that he's shown, the consistency and him holding the belt, I think that it's hard to go against him here. And, either way, even if I'm right or wrong, these are going to be some great fights to watch out for. And I hope that you all tune into them. Check out it, UFC 51. But, before I go into a little bit about what happened to me recently, I got to talk about a guy, DeSean Jackson, who, he if you don't know what happened, you have DeSean Jackson, who said some anti-Semitic quotes. And it's crazy because, you don't really think about, in this age of Black Lives Matter and everything that's happening with us, it's hard to think that someone could be saying some anti-Semitic things, right? It doesn't equate right now. It doesn't make sense, especially coming from DeSean Jackson. But you have DeSean Jackson who quoted Hitler on Instagram. He reposted some of the things there. And pretty much, if you read the article and you read exactly what he was posting, the main thing that I really see here is I see somebody that is really misinformed, right? I think the one thing that's happened with, with our whole movement, with the Black Lives Matter movement and our younger generation is that, we've seen that people have taken action. They're being more expressive, We're saying a lot of things that we think and that we feel. We're not being scared to express those things. And I think you have DeSean Jackson, who is somebody that is really wanting to express himself, all right? He wants to be a part of this movement. He sees something, and he saw a quote from this Hitler thing, and if you read it, and he's saying that, in a way, weirdly, he's saying that, black people don't know what they are. And the descendant of that whole quote is saying that blacks are the real Jews, or per se, or the real descendants from Israel or something. And, here you have DeSean Jackson who gravitated to the point of, what if we actually understood what we are and the power of black people, and if we, as black people, understood how powerful we are, what could we potentially do? And here you have DeSean Jackson who is misinformed and took, the words of Hitler and took that in its wrong context. And it's crazy because I think about all the different things, and you think about some of these KKK groups out there, and some of them actually quote the Bible. And we say that, things can get misconstrued. And it's so crazy how, words can be twisted, and the perception of those words is all based off of how someone takes it in. And there's so many different ways to perceive one sentence, right? One word. So when I look at DeSean Jackson, I think that problem speaks to a lot of our generation, or the younger generation of people that literally see something and they post it instantaneously because they're like, wow, look at this. I got to show people. Like, this is crazy. But you really have to, take a second, read certain things, be informed, do your research, right? And really come to an educated response, because the power of the social media and the power of the platform that's created is you're putting yourself on a platform to be, critiqued and judged by millions and billions of people based off what you're putting out there. So it's hard for people to, defend DeSean Jackson in a way, because this is what he's put on his Instagram. And when you do the research, and when you look at the things that he was posting and the message that he was trying to get across, it's easy to see how it can be misconstrued and how it can be seen as anti-Semitic. So I definitely want to say that, hey, DeSean Jackson, he apologized afterwards, and he highlighted the part of what was said so that we could understand where he was coming from. But the general message that I want to get to everyone out there, what you have to understand is you have to really take a second and think about the things before you post them. All right? Think about what you truly feel about something. Take the time, research it, read it once, read it twice, read it 3 times. I know a lot of times they would say when we were younger, how many times did you read something, right? Because that's when you can actually, the first time you're understanding it, you're letting it come through, you're resonating. Then the second time you read it, you're able to gain your own perception of things. You're reflective. And then the third time is up to you. That's on your own. But what I'm saying to you is this. If DeSean Jackson had taken some time to think about the things that he read and try and come in a way that really highlighted what he was trying to get over in that message, I think it would have been a lot easier on himself to then not get this feedback and these blowback and this misconstruing of people saying that, he's anti-Semitic, when really he was just misinformed, right? He just didn't get the things that he was reading completely. And I think that's a huge point that every one of us can take away from this. So, DeSean Jackson, I know that you're not, a Nazi. We get it. But I understand your message that you saw from what supposedly Hitler said, and saying that what if we understood our power? So, with the power of this platform, I give you the card. I'm giving you the grace card, right? So, in closing of the show, one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about was, before the show, big shout out to my boy Shank Jr. I got a chance to go bowling with him. And it was actually one of the first times that I got to bowl since last March. And it was crazy because that first game I rolled like a 160. And you could tell it was rusty. Like, I missed a spare that I would have never thought I would miss before. And it was just really awesome to just get back out there and have fun. I think me personally, especially with bowling, when I, last season, it was really huge for me as far as trying to get better as a bowler and getting all the reps that I could to become a lot better. And now, with having this time off, I really got to get myself grounded again and really try and see, what was it about bowling that I really enjoyed? What was it that I really liked, right? And when I came back out there today for the first time, like I said, with Shank Jr., I just really enjoyed the fact of just being able to compete. And it wasn't like we were bowling in league. It wasn't like we were bowling for money. And I think that a lot of times with us bowlers, we're on a platform where we're bowling for money. And you're trying to compete to win money. And it can be a lot easier. And you can see how some of these athletes out there, lose track or lose sight of the real reason why we play the game. I was blasting the MLB because, they didn't want to come back because of millions of dollars. But, here you have people in bowling that are, saying that they don't want to come back because they don't want to wear a mask. And, in the bowling alley that me and Chris went to at Majestic, you had some people that weren't bowling with masks. And, for me, I feel like I'm going to be somebody, if we do come back, I'm going to wear the mask. I don't care how uncomfortable it is. I don't care how much it might suck, how unfashionable it is. I'm going to wear the mask the whole time. And it really is a thing. And all it takes is one person to not do the right thing. And now, you have leagues that are shut down. Or you might have the bowling alley that gets shut down. So I take it back to a video that Bill Nye, the science guy, actually posted on Twitter, which was pretty dope. But he's pretty much saying that he wears this mask to protect, you out there. He doesn't know if he has it. We might not know if we don't have coronavirus. But, that mask is really to protect ourselves, protect our loved ones, protect the people that we're competing against. So, no matter how difficult it might be, especially where we have sports where you might have a difficulty in managing in baseball or managing NBA teams, because you might have to worry about coronavirus now. The coaching game has changed. Sports entirely has changed, right? So now when you talk about it, especially from a standpoint from someone like me who's quote-unquote regular, I'm just somebody that I want to go out there and I want to compete. I want to go out there and be safe. And that's why, as tough as it might have been or as uncomfortable it may have been, I'm going to adapt. One of the things that I did with Chris Shank, and he kind of like worked with my hand placement a little bit with bowling, which was dope. But, you have to kind of make yourself uncomfortable to create change. And I saw that after I made that switch, I think I had like 5 or 6 in a row. And it was crazy because that is the reason why I continued to bowl. I think, at the latter stages of the months, it can get easy to get caught up in, you're winning, a lot of hundreds of dollars. You're winning, and it's cool to get that cash. But, you don't go to the bowling alleys. You don't do those things to just win money. You go to have fun. And I really had fun today, getting back to learning how to bowl again, right? And after that first game, I rolled like a 215. I rolled a 205 and a 190 something afterwards. So I might not exactly be where I need to be, but it was that relearning and it was trying to get back to that place and get back to that platform where I was, and that progress and trusting the process. It's that process is what I really enjoy about bowling. So, in these next, few weeks, like I said, I made a switch to DIY. And part of the reason was we're going to have practices. And I'm really a big, community guy. And I know with this whole coronavirus, it's been difficult because I really love my bowling community. And I really think it's a different type of community if you're not a part of it, right? So, I just hope that, through this coronavirus, I know things are going to change, but, for me as a bowler, and I define myself as a bowler, I just was so happy to get back out there. And I think that kind of gives us hope that, whether it's, in leagues, whether it's just, shooting 3 or 4 games, there's joy to be had there, and this will not stop us. And I'm going to continue to have fun. And like Chris said, it's all about adjustment. So we can't let this whole virus, and we can't let things stop us from living our lives. We just have to adjust to it. We have to make the proper adjustments and continue to be who we are, man. And I think that, that's something that bowling has taught me in its little way. And I think it's really awesome when you're able to take these things and your passions and just take different things and apply them, man. So, I'm just super happy to get back out there. And thank you to everybody that was tuned in here on our Instagram live stream. Shout out to Zach House, my boy Josh Gaines, Stanley, Suge, like I said, my boy Marcus. We got Chris Shank Jr., Chris Garrett, Tripp, my boy Nahir, Angelo Paulo. If you want to get a chance to get yourself a shirt, put your name in the thread, leave a comment, and we're going to get you in on this t-shirt raffle very shortly. But before I do that, I want to say, Dad, can you get me a beer?
I can get you a beer.
Because I have to do the beer review, and I can finally do it for the first time in our Talk That Talk Show mug. Shout out to Liz. You're so dope for giving us this mug. Thank you so much for supporting the show. But we have this beer tonight. We got Ishabad Crane here on Instagram live stream. I hope you're listening, brother, because when you come to the crib, you're going to see that we have Water Balloon Fight. This is a cool beer from Bolero Snort Brewery. It's called Water Balloon Fights. It is a really, really delicious beer. I've had one or two before the show, but for first time in show history, we're going to pour it in the Talk That Talk Show mug.
That Talk Show mug!
Oh, man, we might, depending on if people like this mug, we might have to start mass producing. I think we know a little bit about that from the shirts, right?
Right.
But,
watermelon fight!
One of the things that I always joke about is like, yo, the packaging first off rip is just really cool. Bolero Snort Brewery really knows how to do some marketing here. And I think that when you talk about beer that has Citra, Mosaic, Sultana, Motueka with vanilla and milk sugar, I mean, you're talking about a really delicious beer here, man. A really, really delicious beer. And I think that in a time where we're talking about summertime and we're really adjusting to those hotter times, right? This is the time to have a beer like Water Balloon Fights from Bolero Snort Brewery. So, you have Nihir Reddy that said he wants a mug. I don't know. This is a one of one right now, but maybe I'll have to see. Maybe we can get one. I don't know. We might have to get another one. Ishabad Crane likes the mug too. But cheers up. First off rip, when you look at it, the color of it, it's a very cool color. Not exactly dark, but it's dark enough. It's light enough to where you can see it's kind of got those ale-ish type, but at the same time, it's a beer with body. So, if you have your beer out there, cheers up. I'm going to review this Water Balloon Fight.
Glug 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 glug. Watermelon Fight by Bolero Snort Brewery.
So Dad has now added the snort to the Water Balloon Fight. Everybody out there, if you are still tuned in, you gotta love Dad's his ad libs. It makes the show what it is, man. I appreciate him so much for it.
Appreciate you too, son.
But yeah, here we go. We have this show here, about to set it to a close. But before I get into the raffle, I definitely want to thank my boy Chris, Sumer, Nihir, Say, Nick Knight, Joe Snow, Henry, Reese, Jeff Lee, Kevin Rosa, Tim, Dutch, Mike Greer, Shug, Sterling, Dylan S. They have all put in their pre-orders, and this is the first time we're going to show it on the camera for the Talk That Talk Show OG3.
Let's go, let's talk that talk.
Yo, these things are fire! We have already sold, I think, like over 20 of these are pre-sale.
Yo, fuego.
I'm telling you. Please message me. I'm not sending them out till my birthday. That's the last that I'm going to show of it. But those are the OG3s for those people out there that were tuned in. Those shirts are fire. And you got to see if you can get yourself one. Shout out to my boy Reed. Shout out to my boy Twan. Mike Greer. People that have been posting on, social media. It's really been dope to see just the amount of people, like I said, they're so happy to wear this shirt. They're so happy to go out there and post and show that they're supporting. So like I said, for you all as custom, we are going to raffle off one of the OG2s tonight. We're going to raffle off an OG2 tonight. Dad, how many people do we have here on there?
We got about 15.
15 people here on stream. My boy Shug, he had just gotten 3 shirts, and he said the quality is A1. Thank you so much, Shug. I appreciate you, man. And, hopefully we can get you some 2XL so you can use them on the basketball court, too. And I actually have a small size for your girlfriend, too. So, here we go. Like I said, as custom, you have up until the end of the time that I finish this beer in our Talk That Talk Show mug. Thank you to Liz. Everybody out there, put your name in the stream. Say, hey, I want a shirt. Say, yes, my name is here. I want a shirt. And we will get your name in for the raffle. This is the last you got here. I'm going to chug it. And once I'm done, we're going to raffle it off. Here we go. Cheers up.
Watermelon Flight Bolero Snort
Water balloon fight. This is good, man. Whew. I'm telling you. There's not many beers that you can chug like that and you don't feel too full, man. And gotta give it to water balloon fights. Now, let's bring it on the other side. Here we go, Pops.
Here we go.
We are gonna raffle it off here. We're raffling off an OG2 shirt tonight on Friday night. This is the Talk That Talk show every Friday, 8:30. It is time. We got to
tap it here when you're ready to spin it.
All right, so we are about to spin the wheel. Here we go. The wheel is a spinning. I don't know who's gonna win tonight, but it looks like Angelo Paulo is our winner for today. He just got himself a Talk That Talk show shirt. Shout out to my boy Angelo Paulo. I love you, brother. Haven't seen you actually in a long time, man. I think since you came and visit me in college, man, up in York College. But I thank you so much for supporting, brother. Angelo is somebody who's a really dope person, man. I know he's a family man, has, family of his own now. Shout out to him. But I'm really happy that this guy won the shirt, man. Love you, Angelo Paolo. Shout out to everybody that participated today. You can always get a chance to win a shirt if you tune into the show every Friday, 8:30. This is the Talk That Talk show. Shout out to our following in Austria, in Vienna. I love you guys so much. I don't know who is listening out there, but you guys are tuning in, and I appreciate you so much. This is the Talk That Talk show.
Talk that talk!
Every single Friday.
Be there!
Be there, be square.
Set your clock!
Thank you so much for tuning in on our Instagram live stream, on our Facebook live stream, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, you name it, we are on it. So please tune in. I love you all.
See you next week!
And we'll see you next week.